Hi everybody and welcome to this session for Lesbian Visibility Week around different sectors and different voices. What we're going to do in this session is introduce you to people who you probably haven't seen before, you've probably never heard of, but now you're going to be their absolute fans, but who are doing jobs in sectors that perhaps you've not thought about. Whilst we're in this lockdown situation, there's an opportunity to reflect and rethink. What am I doing with my life? Where's my career going? Where might I want to be? And these three amazing women all have really interesting stories to tell you. So without further ado, because you definitely do not want to hear from me, I'm going to introduce you to them and they're going to tell you a little bit about themselves and then we're going to have some conversation. So I'm going to start with you if that's okay, Sam.
Yeah, that's fine, Claire. Thanks for inviting me along to this. It's really good to be part of it. So my background, I'm Samantha. I work in the oil and gas industry at the moment and have for a lot of years. I have a trans history. So not only is it myself working in the oil and gas industry, which is quite strange from a female perspective, such no representation, but even more so with people with trans histories. I have been very fortunate. I've progressed very well in my career and travelled the world and seen some wonderful things, which no doubt we'll discuss during the conversation.
Fab, thank you. And Lourdes.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much for inviting me to this event. It's really a pleasure to be part of it. And I wish you all the best with the whole week of events. So yeah, I'm Lourdes Cucurull-Sanchez, and I'm a director in GSK. GSK is a pharma company. And my role there is to find clever ways of combining what we know about physiology in the human body and biology, and try to get the best therapy possible for patients, deciding how much of the drug we can give them, how often, and to which kind of patients it would work the best. How did I get here? So I'm a chemist by training. I got my degree in Barcelona, then I did my PhD in Barcelona. I did crystallography in Newcastle in the UK, and I love the country, so I stayed here for a postdoc in Cambridge. I learned a bit of machine learning there. I'm sure you've heard about the concept, quite fashionable nowadays. And then I moved into the industry that I really enjoy, which is pharma. First at Pfizer in Canterbury, in Kent. And when they closed down, now I'm at GSK in Stevenage. And really very much enjoying it, because it's really helping patients and getting them something that can really change their lives.
Thank you. I'm guessing you're kind of quite busy at the moment, so thank you for making time during this period particularly.
That's okay.
And Kulbir.
Hi Claire, lovely to see you and meet everybody. I'm the Director of Social Inclusion at the University of Warwick, and my role is very much about kind of creating an inclusive culture, which obviously is really important for our students and also for our staff. I suppose, how did I kind of get here? It's something that I've always done, and I guess I feel very privileged that I work in an area that actually has a lot of personal meaning for me. My parents were first-generation immigrants here, and I think kind of growing up during that time, seeing what their kind of experience was, and actually my own experience as well, you know, kind of growing up with the National Front in the background, that kind of thing, actually spurred me on to want to be part of something which was actually making a difference and changing the world in some way for people, and thinking about it actually kind of being much more kind of inclusive. So I feel very privileged that it's something that actually really does personally resonate with me. How I got to the university is quite interesting. I actually started working in social housing, actually looking at policy issues around housing, around race, around communities. And from that, I've kind of worked in criminal justice areas. So quite a lot of kind of social impact kind of organizations, but I've also latterly actually worked for a number of corporate sector companies as well. And I think for me, the contrast has been a really interesting and rich variety, which bringing that all together at the university actually feels quite special, because universities are about learning, but actually it's also about their impact on the community and what their external voice is.
Brilliant, thank you. And I'm guessing people already have a million questions. I guess I want to start by thinking you're all actually
a minority within a minority, because you're all a specific, you know, intersectionality that's as well as being a woman in mostly very male dominated environments, you all bring a different lens to that, being a woman as well. What's your experience of being a woman within your own sector? Sam, I'm going to come to you because it's obviously a very male dominated area.
Oh yes, it goes without saying. And, it's going to be a long, long while before we change that. I mean, I come with two perspectives. So, you know, a long time in my career, I was presenting. I was sitting at the other side of the table, hearing some of the conversations that were being said, the excuses for it not being more inclusive, and all the time fighting my own demons at the time, until I came to a point where, you know, I had to make a stand and I had to be me. Once I did that, it was almost as if it flipped. People no longer said things to me, but I knew it was still happening. So I think carrying that battle forward and sort of encouraging people to recruit and think beyond themselves is so very important. We have all sorts of initiatives. I mean, if you look at the oil industry in general, we are trying to address it. Shell, who I've recently joined, they've got this Balance 50/50 initiative, which is fabulous and it sounds great on paper. My worry is we're still doing a degree of virtue signaling. We're not actually buying into the concept. We're not believing that in this period where it's very, very important because of the energy transition we need to address. We need people with innovation. We need people who look at things slightly differently, who approach things from a different angle. And I think if you have these subsects within yourself and demons you have to fight or address yourself to find yourself, you're much more open to listening and engage and trying to get people to look at things a different way. Now, we are doing that on the offshore side of things. I know yourself, you do a lot of work with the OGA. But that's great onshore. When you look at the operational mode in some of the areas we do work in, which are very remote and offshore, it doesn't always appeal to everyone, I'd say. Myself, I always loved maths. I love things that had an answer, a solution. Physics, something where you have rules and you can actually dissect and understand. When you get to that, you can then work out the building blocks to get you to that point. You can start to address and question, okay, why is that happening? How is that happening? How can we improve? We can't just continue with this is how we do business mentality, which a lot of companies have resided in. And the oil industry is one of the worst for it. But as I say, as we go forward, if we're going to address the challenges that are before us, we need to think about different ways of doing that. And there's no better way of doing that, as everyone in this place and everyone listening. Inclusion is so important. The listening part of inclusion, that looking for innovative ways of doing things is so important. And hopefully, just by being there and being visible, you know, stating my case, encourages others to do it. That's all I've ever wanted. You know, people say I was brave doing what I was doing. I don't think it was brave. It was something I had to do myself. But I haven't done it and haven't been, you know, proud to stand there, be very visible. Hopefully, it encourages other people, and I know it does, because people have approached me subsequently and thanked me for it, and you know, want to discuss things, and want to know how they can be more like themselves as well. So it's important. It's important across all aspects, all sectors of society, that we embrace one another.
Thanks, Sam. If you can move your microphone slightly towards you, because I think talking of remote offshore, you stand risk of being remote offshore yourself.
No, that's fine. Is that any better?
Yes, better. Thank you.
Excellent.
Kulbir, I'm going to come to you next.
I think that the HE sector, actually, which I'm relatively new to, in terms of kind of being a woman, I think the barriers that women actually kind of come across are no different to any other kind of sector. You know, it's been a kind of very male-dominated environment, both to be a student in and also to be a kind of academic in. I think it was only in 1878 that the London University was one of the first universities to actually award a degree to a woman, although I'm told that actually women disguise themselves, pass themselves off as men probably way before that to actually into universities and get access to learn in, you know, and I think we're probably kind of aware of some of those stories, particularly in medical schools and things like that. So I think that the HE sector is again, you know, not that different to a lot of other sectors in terms of some of those barriers that kind of face women. So it's kind of coming into an environment where, you know, it is kind of male dominated in senior leadership positions, which means that the kind of culture is very kind of driven by male masculine kind of type behaviors that we might kind of associate with that. But I think that there are also fantastic opportunities. I wouldn't want anybody to be put off by that, because there are also some amazing kind of female and gay role models, you know, within the HE kind of sector, you know, and I think there's lots of kind of opportunity, you know, if you want to be an academic, you know, there are some fantastic opportunities available to kind of get involved in research, to really be, you know, that expert in your kind of field. And I think that's one of the things that I find quite exciting for the area that I work in myself, is to be working with academics who are actually doing, you know, in-depth research, the psychologists and the sociologists, and that's kind of fascinating. And I think also as a student, you know, students will also have, female students will also have kind of, you know, face those barriers, and we hear about the kind of shortage of female students in STEM subjects, for example. And those are some of the things that we're kind of working really hard on, to actually both kind of change the perception for women in terms of what that experience might be like, but also to kind of work with the culture of the organisation to really make that difference, because, you know, we all understand that when you can be yourself, you can actually perform at your, you know, at your best. And at a university, that's so critical, you know, and it's same as, you know, working in Glaxo or something, where actually that research and that innovation is absolutely kind of critical. And I think that people get that, and they do want to kind of change, but that cultural change takes time. Yeah.
It's a shame this is live, because obviously I would bleep out Glaxo and put GSK in, Lourdes, of course.
I'm sorry. That's what I meant, GSK.
Coming to you, Lourdes, I mean, you know, STEM subjects, tough environment, tough sector to work in. Being a woman, being a non-British national working in the UK, being an LGBT woman, you know, how has that been for you? I think you're on mute. You're still on mute. It's all good. Press your space bar. That will also help.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes. No. It probably was tough 15 years ago or so, when I first started in this field, in this area. But I think in terms of equality in all aspects, in gender equality, ethnicity equality, disabilities, LGBT, we've improved a lot. In my sector, most companies, or at least all the companies, big pharma companies I know of, we have policies in place that kind of guarantee that equality, if not culturally yet, but at least from the point of view of the intention within the company, they are helping. And I like very much the point that Sam made about this distinction between what the policies and rules are, and what the kind of work you need to do in order to implement that, to embed that within the culture. That is the real challenge. I think maybe that challenge has to be taken with a perspective of trying to be good role models, be out there, be visible, not be confrontational, try to see things from the other person's point of view. Most of the time, people are unaware of your particular, specific, unique situation. And so you need to be mindful of that. And people normally have the best intentions in asking questions, and we are normally very happy to answer them. So I think through this kind of work, which takes time, like Kulbir said, cultural changes take 3 to 5 years to start to produce something, 8 years possibly to fully get there. So yeah, we are going in the right direction, I would say. And opportunities are there because within the pharma sector, companies are developing courses and developing programs to find out where that talent is, regardless of their background, regardless of their labels. And it's working out well. So the new generation of leadership should be more mindful of diversity and inclusion.
Great, and it's really great to hear actually for all three of you that things are definitely moving forward. And I want to pick up on your point around being the importance of role models, the importance of seeing people like you, because that's been a really important theme across the week. And actually the survey that this week was born out of really highlighted that so many LGBT women still don't see people like them when they look around them. Sam, I'm going to come to you in terms of, you know, you're an absolute trailblazer, and I know you're going to hit me when you can for saying this. Hopefully you've forgotten by then. You know, you're an absolute role model and an absolute trailblazer in such a unique environment. When you were moving in, did you see people like you? What would that have meant to you?
It would have meant the world to me. I mean, I went through some pretty dark places with regard to finding myself, and that's because there was no representation, and that wasn't just within my industry, that was in life in general, from my perspective, where I came from. That there was no one that was like me, and the reports that you saw, anything you did that referenced the trans piece, it tended to be really sort of shock horror. And so it didn't occur to you at all to be possible. And you hide that away, and you hide that away. Obviously, coming into your working environment, as I mentioned before, if you can't be yourself, you can't perform fully. Now, I was fortunate, I did quite well in my career where I was, but it got to a point where platforms and I'm offshore installation manager. As I was sort of going through my career, we very much sort of talk about, you know, honesty, authenticity, open door approach, come and get me, come and ask me if you have any issues. And yet I was hiding myself. I think that was the sort of trigger that really made me step up and say, look, I can't keep on doing this. I need to be honest with myself, or else I'm not going to perform. And to be fair, doing it, some people sort of behind my back, I heard some sort of indirectly was stating there's no way you could do this. There's no way in the world she can do this. She can't go back offshore. She can't do this. And very much closed the door, which hurt me a little because it's what I was expecting. I was expecting to be shuttered. And that's strange because all through my education, my parents bring me up, my religious upbringing, it was always unacceptable. But getting to the point where it was a choice of this blackness I was finding myself in, or being myself, I had to be myself. Fortunately, 90% of the people were fine. And that was the good news piece. But if I'd had somebody who'd done it before me, I would have been myself so much earlier, and I wouldn't have felt I was fighting a battle at the time. Now, looking back on it now, it wasn't really a battle. A lot of it was in my own. I do know that. But when you're dealing with that set of circumstances, there isn't any representation. You can even talk about it. Of course, it's very difficult. And we are moving forward now, thankfully. You know, there's more and more representation of female and females with trans histories as well. There's some real trailblazers out there. There's some real role models out there. It's a different world to where it was when I was growing up in the 90s, and I'm so grateful.
Thanks. This is such a moving story. Just I can't imagine what it would have been like. Lourdes, for you, you know, how important is being able to be authentic for you personally?
To be authentic, that's at the core of gaining trust from people. That's one. So people can trust you, and in my job as well is very important because we are constantly dealing with new stakeholders, different stakeholders, and getting their trust is built entirely on being authentic. But also personally, and looking at my career, being authentic means being true to yourself, being yourself, being able to express yourself without any fear, without any barrier or without censoring yourself. And that brings up a lot of ideas and a lot of initiatives that if you keep to yourself would never have happened. And they can actually be very innovative. They can be helping someone else, for example, who was very keen to looking for someone who could help them, and they couldn't find them, and then you exchange those ideas, and then you realize that you can help each other, right? And yeah, like Sam was saying, having a role model is very important when you're starting to come out. And in my time, I also, when I came out, there was nobody around, so I kind of stumbled into it eventually. So yeah, authenticity is at the core of trust, gaining trust, and getting into that innovation that Kulbir was mentioning earlier as well.
Thank you. And Kulbir, I mean, you have a very visible difference, and we've talked before about how it feels to be the only one in the room. For me, it's the only wheelchair user in the room. For you, the only Asian woman in the room. You know, how do you feel about the importance of representation, and how has that helped you or hindered you in your career?
I think it's actually incredibly important, and I can kind of look back at my younger self and think about actually what difference it would have made to have had more visible role models for me, you know, in the kind of early part of my career, even when I was kind of growing up. And you know, and it kind of feels like, you know, I wish I had that. So, you know, when I can, but, you know, we kind of, things have moved on. So I kind of see a lot more kind of ethnic diversity, you know, around, and, you know, and I think that's so valuable, you know, and I think about it for our kind of children's generation, for my daughter, you know, and I just think how important that is for her, you know, and in the context of the work at the university, I see how important that is for our students, you know, for them to actually see themselves kind of reflected, you know, in the kind of diversity of the staff, is a kind of indicator of trust. I think Lourdes kind of mentioned trust a few times, and actually I think how authentic you feel you can be is a kind of indication of how trusting are you of the people around you. And I think that says a lot about culture. It's almost a kind of like a litmus test, isn't it? It's like, how much do I trust these people? How much can I really open up and just be myself and say what it is that I really think and share kind of ideas? You know, and if we're going to kind of have places, workplaces, study places that really do kind of encourage that innovation, then we've really got to kind of strive for it. So I think role models are incredibly important. And I think it doesn't always have to be the same person reflected back at you as yourself. I think it's just seeing difference. Yeah. You know, so for me, it doesn't have to be another Indian one, for example. You know, it could be you, you know, just to see that difference says something to me about the kind of culture that I'm in.
And just building on for that, I'm going to come straight back to you, Kulbir. When you think back into the early stages of your career, what do you wish you knew then that you know now in terms of really thriving in your career?
I think I wish I'd somebody who said to me, just don't ever think that nothing is possible. Always think that everything is possible and just go for it. Try it. If it doesn't work, don't worry about it. I really wish I'd had the confidence to kind of do and think like that when I was a lot younger.
And the same question to you, Lourdes.
Yeah, so don't be scared of thinking big and playing big. Learn your own strengths. Ask for feedback. You know, play to your strengths. And if you have an inner call, just follow it.
And Sam, I've obviously given you much more thinking time, so we're expecting big things from you now.
Don't too much pressure. I think the one thing I'd say to my younger self is just be kinder to yourself. I spent so long being told and absorbing this, you can't do that, and you can't do that, and suppressing so much of myself. It curtailed my ability to interact and make emotional contact with people. And actually being kinder to yourself, and in turn reaching out and being kinder to others, makes such a difference to your life.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask you one last question before we leave people to ask their own questions. And that's if people are listening to this now thinking, oh, you know, I've never even heard of that industry, or I've never thought about that industry, but I'm wondering, would I fit? Is it for me? What one tip would you say for people considering your industry? What's the kind of go-to skill that you need, or what would you say to someone who's thinking, I'm not sure about your industry? Sam, I'm going to come back to you.
I think it's down to that curiosity. If you have a natural curiosity, the industry lends itself to that. The industry is looking for new ways of doing things, and it's even more important in this day and age that the oil and gas industry becomes introspective and starts to look at itself and how can it improve, how can it change. We want to be at the forefront of changing the dynamics of the industry and moving it on to the next era, which is so important for everyone, and it's a place to be.
Brilliant. The place to be, on an oil rig somewhere in the Outer Hebrides. Kulbir, I'm wondering if you're fancying the Outer Hebrides. If you're not, what would you say for people thinking about a career in higher education?
Well, I thought I was in the Outer Hebrides. I could be anywhere really right now. I think if somebody was looking for a career in kind of higher education, say go for it. You know, it's incredibly exciting to actually be working with people who are being incredibly innovative. They're on the cutting edge of research, you know, and cutting edge of thinking, you know, and if that excites you, I think, you know, why not kind of give it a go? And also universities are places where there's such a diverse range of careers. It's not just about kind of being an academic, but if you are an academic, of course, go for it. But, you know, they are huge kind of complex businesses, and there are a huge range of kind of careers there, you know, ranging from kind of doing talent development to, you know, doing strategic work. You know, there's a lot of kind of opportunity.
And last but by no means least, Lourdes, what about for people who are thinking, oh, you know, maybe pharmaceuticals is the place to be right now?
It is indeed. You just look around, everybody's looking at pharma to bring us the solution to this COVID crisis, right? But besides that, for me, what's very inspiring is to see how much impact we can have on patients' lives. So I'll tell you a story. When I joined GSK, I like the culture of the company because it was very kindness everywhere, and that was very much in line with my expectation. And the second week I was there, I knew I was right because we had a seminar by a patient, and the patient explained to us what impact we had had in their life through that therapy that we discovered and brought to them. So for me, that was, yes, I want to do this. I'm in the right place. And it was GSK, but it's the same for any pharma company. It's helping patients live better and live longer.
Well, thank you very much. We will open it up for live questions now, but I just want to thank you all personally for giving up time in what is a very busy time for all of you. And I know that you're going to really start people thinking about perhaps some of the things that they'd never thought about doing or opportunities that's always been in the back of their mind. So thank you really very much from me.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.